Hey everyone, this is Niels with another tutorial for rrRender. In this video, I'm going to show you how to set up Cloud Manager for Microsoft Azure. Okay, so let's jump right in. On the right-hand side, you see the Cloud Manager UI, which is pretty clean slate right now because we haven't done any configuration yet, but we will come to that in a minute. And on the left-hand side, you see the browser tab open with the portal.azure.com. This is basically the management console for all your Azure needs. And yeah, okay, so in order to get the configuration started, we go to Extras Settings. And first of all, we need to add a new provider and give it a useful name like Azure Tut, which is for Azure Tutorial. And we will make our way through from the top down all the parameters here on that tab. The first parameter is the provider type. We leave it as is because we want to use Azure as a provider. We would have the option to change that to provider plugin, but we will see that in another tutorial video. Okay, so where do we get the subscriber ID? The subscriber ID can be found under this point here, subscriptions. We can click that. And then for us, we see two subscriptions here, but we just use the first one and you have to use the one you want to use for Azure. Most certainly you only have one subscription here, but yeah, so we can just use copy and paste in order to set the value into that blank field here. Okay, so where do we get the tenant ID? We go back to the home page here. And then we change to Microsoft Entra ID. And on the left side, you have these drop-down menus, and you want to go to app registrations. In our case, we have two app registrations here, but most likely you would have only one here too. In case, and you should do that before following this tutorial, you should go to the rrRender documentation, and we show a link here where you can find the documentation on how to prepare the Azure subscription for use with rrRender. And please follow that first and then come back here to that tutorial video. Okay, so in case you named it the same as we did here, our Cloud Manager, you can click on that, and then you have all the information about your application. And first we need the tenant ID, and we can find the tenant ID here, and we have this useful little icon here, so we can quickly copy that to the clipboard and then paste it here as the tenant ID. Now we want to have the application ID. The application ID is right above here. Also copy to clipboard and paste it here. Now we want to find out the application key. This application key is just a secret key that prevents others from using your Azure API and can be found under this key symbol here, certificates and secrets. If you followed the preparation documentation for Azure, you most likely have this key already here, this client secret already here. But the thing is, you can only get the key in plain text only once on creation. After that, it is kept secretly here, and you won't have any chance to get it back. So in case you've lost it, you can just easily create a new client secret. Just click on this plus icon here. Description, yeah, it's like our test secret, whatever. recommendation 100 valid for 180 days. Well, it's okay for me. We can click this button add here, and then we have the first and only time you see this secret in plain text. You can copy that to clipboard 2 and then paste it here, which is not shown because it's a secret value. Okay, so in case we did everything right here, we can click on test connection and we should get a message. Success, API connection check successful. So that means we have connection to the API. We can get all the available locations. This is just the endpoint we are calling here for test reasons and for actual reasons, because we want to, as a next step, we want to choose the cloud location our virtual machines are located in. And for us here, since we're located in Germany, we could use Germany, but usually I would choose to use West Europe. Okay, so that's it for the upper credentials section here. And then we can move on to the virtual network section. Pretty much all of these parameters are set for you with default values. And if you don't have special requirements for your virtual network, you can leave it as is. So we just put a RR in front of the provider name here. So it's RR Azure Toot. It's the resource group. It's a container for Microsoft Azure where all the resources for this provider are gathered. Then we have the virtual net name. It's the same name. The subnet IP range is this here. You can leave it as is. And please change that only if you have special needs. The same for the rendered subnet IP range. That's the IP range, the IP pool that the IP are fetched from when a new VM is created, and that IP then is assigned to that machine from that pool here. And then we have one option left here. It's the rr OpenVPN, which means RR creates and manages VPN connections for you. In case you want to manage that on your own, you have to take care of everything VPN related. So in this case, I would leave that checked. So everything is taken care of for you. And we can move on to the rr OpenVPN settings. So you can most likely you can leave those default parameters as is. The tab device name, that's part of the OpenVPN client. Then we have the subnet IP range. We have the client subnet IP range. That's the IP range where the IP addresses for the VPN clients are drawn from. In most cases, this is only one IP address. Then we have, and that's really important that you change that to your needs. In our case, it is 192.168.0.0.24. So that's the IP range for your local network. In our case, that's the correct IP address, but please make sure that it is adapted to your needs. Okay, so the next thing is the VPN VM size. VM size, what does it mean? It is a combination of how large your disk drive is on that VPN. It is it's the amount of cores your machine should have and the RAM your machine should have. And in this case, this drop-down menu is still empty, but we can load all available sizes from our cloud location, West Europe here. I just click that, have to wait a second, And then we have the drop-down menu field, and I choose to use probably the standard D2V4. It has 2 cores and 8 gigabytes of RAM. I think that should be enough for running our OpenVPN server, because that is what we're configuring here. And then we need to choose which VPN VM image we want to use. And in our case, we want to use the default one. That's a default one that we've prepared for you. There's also already the OpenVPN end server running, and all the rest of the configuration will be later done through the Virtual Network wizard, which will be shown in a different tutorial. So let's just use the default image here. And depending on which provider you're using, it fills the default image that we provide from our Azure account. And then we want to choose the admin username for that VM. In this case, I choose the name rrUser and a password. Okay. And then just for convenience, we put the download link for the OpenVPN client. So in case you are on Windows, you can easily click here and get the MSI installer or exe, I think, in order to install the VPN client here. Just let the installer run, and the configuration will be done in a later step. So you don't have to worry about that right now. Okay, so let's move on to the Royal Render settings. So in the first parameter here, our root network path, that is the network path to your Royal Render installation. And in our case, this would be then the IP address, like 192.168.0 and 60, and then the share name is Royal Render. Then we have an optional network path. We don't for NFS. We won't use that right here. But then we need to put in the Cloud Manager IP, and the Cloud Manager IP in this case is 192.168.0.61. And you have to make sure that all these values and the address of the machine where your Royal Render share is, and also the machine where the Cloud Manager is running, make sure that you adapt that to your needs. And as a last step here, what we want to do is we want to add a tuple here, the host name and the IP address for a separate share. So if you have, and most likely you have a different share for all your scene files and textures and whatnot, you should put that here. In our case, we have a separate machine that is running a version of Windows Server, and yeah, it is called, in our case, it is called Royal Share. And the IP address is 192.168 and 0 and 167. Okay, so far so good. And I think the next section here, we won't use that in our tutorial example here because we don't have our machines controlled by an Active Directory, but in case you have, you can just enter the parameters here according to the information in this light rectangle here. So you have to enter the domain URL, the organizational unit, the admin username, and the domain admin password. And then you can use this button here to test whether these credentials are right or not. Okay, I think that's it for now. Now you know how to add a new provider here. And in the next tutorial, I'm going to show you how to add a new connector to really use that provider and create virtual machines in order to get your renders running. Okay, thank you very much and see you in the next one. Bye-bye.